What's up, coach?
How are you, Professor?
I'm doing well, man.
What's going on?
Just got done training. I'm going to share this video so our delightful students can see it. I can see you're working very hard, as always.
Uh, Unfortunately, not just at the academy. I do it at home too. Sometimes my real job I have to take a break from and actually do stuff during the day too.
It's crazy how they expect that from you.
I don't get it. They're insane.
All right. All right. Let's see here. All right, brother. So, one thing that I want to talk about. So two things. They're intertwined, which is why we're going live right now to talk about it. So I just got done training with the noon class. And the thing I love about the noon class, it's like one of the few times during the week where I get a chance to train with a lot of the white belts, and it's awesome, man. Like it's fun because a lot of those guys I don't even really get to meet them anymore when they come in the door. Because when they come in for their first class, like I'm teaching the advanced kids, and then I have to jump right over and teach the advanced adults. So I love rolling with them, and it just seems like somebody wants to do jujitsu. Pete, can you come answer this phone?
Give me a sec.
uh, it's just the thing I love about training with them is immediately, it's just like a gateway into a time machine of like when I was a white belt. Like it's a refresher in terms of like that white belt mentality and the perspective of being a white belt. Like not knowing what the hell's going on, but being the most excited person in the room and like being a little intimidated and just having the whole wide expanse of jiu-jitsu right in front of you. And especially when you do this professionally, like you lose sight of that. Like I am as immersed in the jiu-jitsu world as anybody really can be. This is like literally all I do every day. So I love training with the white belt. So I was training with one of the white belts today. Guy's a stud, man. The new guy, Evan. Have you trained with him yet?
Yeah. No,
Dude,
not yet. Not yet.
he's beast. Super
Yeah.
athletic, like perfect amount of aggression. Like he's not a crazy person, but he's getting after it. And he's got the right mentality. Like he's not scared to make mistakes. He's not scared to ask questions. And we get done rolling, and he looked at me with that smile as white belts tend to do, and he's like, "Damn, I got a lot to learn." Because like I was just kind of like Jello, and like he couldn't really hurt me or anything like that, and that was the lesson I was trying to give him. Like, dude, relax. He was like, he looked at me, he's like, I got a lot to learn, and I looked at him and I said, so do I. And he looked at me like I was crazy, and I had to explain to him, like, yeah, I'm a black belt, and yeah, like this is what I do professionally, but there are a lot of arenas in jiu-jitsu right now where I'm a white belt. Like I'm really diving into the lapel guard stuff with the gi on. We're recommitting ourselves to the leg lock game right now, which that's turned into a whole new friggin' world. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is, like, what was intertwined, like, what did I message the coaches last night when I got home from the school?
You wanted to quit.
I was like, guys, I quit. I'm joining the union. I was like, the password to everything is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Have a nice life.
Word for word, you said that.
I was like, I think I'm gonna join a Krav Maga school, and everybody's like, oh no, what happened? Like, did Ross choke you out?
Yeah.
I'm like, God no. But what happened was I just didn't feel as sharp as I wanted to, and I was frustrated. And the lesson is like that never goes away, unless
Never.
you're doing it the wrong way. It should always be there, right?
It has to be.
So the question is
There's
this.
so much. The one thing I was going to say is because I've had roles with guys and they go, "Oh man, I just don't know," and I'm like, "We're all in the same boat." I said from top to bottom, nobody knows all of jujitsu. I don't care how many videos you put out and BJJ fanatics DVDs you put out. Jiu-jitsu is alive, man. It's growing. New techniques are coming up. How many times do you see in the IBJJF event where somebody goes, "What the hell was that?" And then we spend the next 2 weeks looking at a 30-second clip of Marigali doing something. Everybody's going,
Yeah,
"Oh my god, my mind is blown." We go from being, "You're a black belt, I'm a brown belt. to being white belts.
But the important thing, I think, the lesson is it's still as frustrating as when you were a white belt, right? Like we still feel like we suck
Yes,
because we do.
big that's we do, we do. That's the beauty of
So
it.
how do you navigate that? Like how do you get over that? Like the walk to your car where you sucked. Either here's the thing, like when you're a white belt, it's pretty obvious when you're not performing well, because everybody on the bench is watching you train, and you're getting the snot smacked out of you. Like you're physically getting your ass kicked. So
Yeah,
if anybody was here watching me train last night, they'd be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" You know, like I
yeah.
texted Brandon, I was like, "Yo, is the police department hiring? Like I'm quitting the school," and he's like,
Don't give him
shut
a big
down.
head.
He's like, you shut down my whole game, like everything I've been working on for 2 months. I was like, yeah, but I didn't shut it down to my liking,
Yes.
and like it just wasn't. I didn't beat the crap out of him as easily as I would have liked, I guess.
But
So
we have that's a thing. That's a thing you go through because you kind of you put not that you don't put yourself on a pedestal, but you put certain things that you do at a certain level. And when you go out and you're like you're not even close, and you're like, man, okay, we all know you dominated most likely Brandon. Like you
nah,
did very well. There's
it
no
wasn't
doubt
even
about it.
domination. He's doing really, really well.
Yes, yes, but every once in a while, a blind cop finds an acorn once in a while, right? So he shows up from time to time. But no, you get to this thing, you do things, you perform at a certain level in a role, and then you come the next week, the next day, open mat, whatever it is, and you go in and you go, wow, it's like I had a lobotomy and I forgot everything I've ever done,
Yeah, dude, and it's
and
like
it's
the
so
world
frustrating.
crashes down.
Yes, yes. I can it was I know for myself I always look at I have the ebb and flow. And I was saying that before we started. There's the ebb and flow jiu-jitsu. You have those, man, you're just I don't care what anybody does. I'm just like, man, I'm on top of it. I'm ahead of it. I can anticipate it could go. Then all of a sudden I have those rolls where it's like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I'm the same guy I was yesterday. What happened? How does this happen? And it's
Or the worst
frustrating.
one is like when you're doing like you're acting like an idiot and you're watching yourself do it. And you're like, why is my jiu-jitsu so bad today? What, like while you're doing it, like what the hell am I doing? It's
Yeah,
incredibly frustrating, and I want people to know
infuriating.
that does not go away. It doesn't go
No.
away as long as you're approaching jiu-jitsu the right way. So
Yeah.
it's such an overused phrase that it's become cliche, but you should always have the white belt mentality, right? Like if I can easily Russ, I will not stop beating up on Brandon. He has gotten a lot better, and unfortunately, so have I. And Brandon is going to be on the receiving end of that. Um, but the point is, like, I can easily put myself in a position in here in my own academy where I could protect my ego, right? Like, I can make it so I never get my guard passed, and I only stick to the like the handful of things that I'm good at. But oh man, like for me
How do you get
personally,
better?
yeah, I mean, I guess I could get better at the. Here's the thing: I can convince myself that I
Yes.
am. I can lie to
The delusion.
myself,
The illusion.
right? But the thing is, like, can you really lie that well to yourself? And the pain of like bullshitting myself greatly outweighs
That's
the pain of not being able to hit Brandon with an inside heel hook repeatedly at will.
yeah. There, I look at it like, and we had the conversation years ago that I have I'm very self-aware, and I have been since I was a teenager because I had the time bomb of compassion as a father that broke it down very look, you're not going to be a doctor, you're not going to be a lawyer. Let's hope you can deliver trash the right way or take the trash out the right way. Whatever you do, So I don't have any delusions of grandeur. I don't think I'm anything special. Um, I don't think that, I don't have I realize that I execute my jiu-jitsu a certain way, and that's the way it is. And it's even though I'm gonna go have my days where I'm down, and it could be from whatever, whether you're training too much, whether you did too many of the hammer throw things that you do with the 15-pound the hammer you got there. you know, you're looking geeked. You know, you're gonna have these things, but I'm not gonna put myself in a spot where I'm only gonna go. I'm only rolling with the guys under 6 months because I'm gonna look
Yeah.
fantabulous with them. No, I'm still gonna ask you. I'm still gonna ask. I'm still gonna ask Brandon. I'm still gonna ask Tony. I'm still gonna ask everybody. I don't get better unless I get beat up. I'm not going to get better unless I get beat up.
Yeah, but I mean, the
And
other part of it is, dude, not only you're not afraid to get beat up. Sorry, this
yeah,
freaking thing is trying to. What is Adobe Flash Player?
that's
Dude, it's not only like not only are you not scared of getting beat up, because I want to be very clear. That's only half of the battle.
yeah,
Like embracing those roles that are, you're not going to look good. The other half is, and I think this is even harder, like of a pill to swallow, is constantly reinventing your game and embracing parts of the game that you suck at. Because man, like that destroys my ego, dude. Like when I can't hit like an inside heel hook because I suck at it, that's just as difficult to manage as training with Big Al, who's like, gonna give me the business.
oh Jesus,
Like
yeah.
there's two parts to it, right? And it never ends. It shouldn't ever end. Is the lesson?
Again, jujitsu is alive. It's always going to grow. And you run into the cycle of you concentrate. For instance, we're doing all the worm guard stuff. You're doing all the lapel guard stuff. You dedicate yourself so much every time you get a chance, every gi roll, for weeks upon weeks upon weeks, you're just concentrating on improving the lapel guard. Well, by dedicating yourself to doing that, a couple things may fall off on the other end because you're still working on it.
Yeah.
Now you may have done whatever it is at a black belt level. You're just not going to be, a two-stripe black belt at these things anymore. You're still going to be a black belt. You're still going to be able to do it because you've done it for 14 years or whatever. But by improving on one, you kind of take away from the other because you're not using it. It's like you take your lawnmower out at the beginning of the spring and you're going, man, this thing's just not working. Why is it working? Well, it's been sitting in the closet
You
for
got to
7
tune
months.
it up.
You got to tune it up. It's got to get warmed up, and then as soon as you get back in, you get back in whatever the time period is. Before you know it, you're spinning that way back up, and then you're tuning that back up. It's, in my opinion, it's a constant. You can't fill every hole. It's the fingers in the dam mentality. You can't put every finger in every dam, and every hole in the dam. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You only have 4 limbs, and hopefully you have 10 digits on your hand, fingers, and toes.
Yeah,
You can only fill so many
as
holes.
long as you're trying, as long as you're making an attempt somewhere.
Yes. Yes.
Let me ask you this, dude. So obviously this applies differently across the entire spectrum of belts. When you're a white belt, everything it's so easy. Life is so simple. Like you show up, you fight hard, you win some, you lose some. You lose a lot more than you win, right? And then, you're like a senior blue belt to a purple belt. You start to gauge yourself a lot more versus your peers. And a whole lot more pressure comes into it. With all that simplicity of being a white belt, kind of goes out the window. When you're a white belt, it doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter how young you are, how athletic you are. Like, you're going to get submitted. You're going to get submitted by your peers. You're going to get submitted by other white belts who are 50 years old and weigh 120 pounds. And nobody thinks anything of it. And then you become like a mid-level blue belt, right? And then like a purple belt. And like, dude, Rondo just asked, when's it okay to accept a loss to somebody that's a lower rank? And, the very altruistic, high-minded part of us is like, you tap, you check your ego at the door and you just tap. Shut up. No way. Like, dude, you better break my arm, Rondo, because I'm not tapping. No, I would tap.
Yep.
But here's the thing. Don't allow yourself, if you get caught, you tap. Is there going to be an anomaly that comes along? And a white belt can tap out a high-level blue belt? Maybe. What's much more common is a crazy blue belt comes along who can tap, a purple belt or even a brown belt. Who knows? Maybe even a black belt. That's a different story. But the lesson, especially for you, Rondo, like you're about to get your blue belt, man. Like you're up on the board right now. Don't allow yourself to get into a stagnant enough like journey and like part of your jiu-jitsu journey where that's going to happen. So that's what's so important about your peer group. right? Like you gotta get a solid group of like 4 or 5 guys that are like your level, kind of your size, and like your level of aggression, and you have to come up through the ranks with these people, right? Because they're going to be the litmus test. They're going to be like the gauge by which you're going to see where you stand. So my peer group, they are the ones that protected me against getting into a position, getting to complacent enough where I could be a purple belt who would get caught by a blue belt. You know what I mean? Like your peer group keeps you sharp. They keep you honest. They keep you, on top of your game.
Honest.
But at the end of
Yeah.
the day,
And
if somebody's better than you, even if they've been training for 6 months, you tap.
Yeah.
And if you were me,
Yeah.
you would ask them to train again.
Yeah.
And if they catch you again, you go home, you think about what you did wrong, and when you come back tomorrow, you ask them to train again. And you keep putting yourself in the fire until that person can't get you anymore. And who cares if they're a lower rank? Dude, I tap the brown belts all the time. And I'm a black belt. It's the same thing. Like, why couldn't a blue belt tap to like a high level white belt?
It happens. I've had conversations with the guys, open mats, whatever, and you hear, God, I got caught by a Rondo or one of the Horton twins, and it's like, well, let's evaluate the situation here. You're dealing with guys that are super athletic. You're who are you are, and I'm like, you're a blue belt. I go, you're not Carlos Gracie, you're not Henzo Gracie. I go, let's look where we are in especially in the progression of the belts and so forth. I hate this stupid term too, that blue belt blues. I'm like, that's when you get your blue belt and all of a sudden you think you're, I don't know,
Yeah, man.
Damian Maya. You're not. You're blue. You did your time. You're a blue belt.
Yeah,
you just made your first step from fundamentals classes. Now you count. You've made your first step. Your first step. Most babies fall on the second step, right? They go their first step. Yeah. Oh, they fell. You're gonna fall.
The big problem with blue belt, and I think the biggest thing about blue belt blues is that most academies, maybe shelter is the wrong word, but in here we protect the white belts to a certain extent. And we protect them technically. So it's all fundamentals. All their training sessions are pretty like controlled, like a lot of live positional training, situational training. So we take some of the variables away from it. We ease them into randori. We make sure that they're not training with anybody who might hurt them. We protect them to a certain extent, as much as you could protect somebody in jiu-jitsu, because at the end of the day, it's combat, right? And then they get their blue belt, and then we put them right on that one in the advanced class with me. Hey guys, this is Xguard. Grab a partner. And they're like, grab a partner. You usually partner me up.
Yeah.
Grab a partner. Go ask somebody to dance. And there's here's an unspoken rule for you. If somebody's a white belt, take it easy. If somebody's a blue belt, fair game.
Fair game.
So things change, right? And so being
once
a blue
you get
belt,
that color, once you get a tint on your belt, and I don't mean because you left it in the back of your car for a week while you were on vacation. Once you get a little color on that belt, then it's okay. You're fair game. You're in the game, I like to say. You're playing poker.
In the game. And what you have to understand, like as a blue belt, that's the highest compliment we can pay you. Like to not be treated with kid gloves anymore, to like really feel somebody's ability, somebody's like sweeping you at will and submitting you. That's high praise. That means that they respect you, that you can pose enough of a threat to them that they have to bring out a higher level of their game. So instead of like beating yourself up over that, acknowledge that now you're in the arena, man. Before you were in the parking lot, you just didn't know it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, because I can tell you, just after guys have got their blue belt, they come in, whether it's the belt ceremony that night, the rolls afterwards, we're here on an open mat or after a class. And they're like, you weren't this nice to me last week. And I'm like, you were a white belt last week. It's not my job to beat you up as a white belt.
It's funny how a day can change.
And then you're rolling with them as a blue belt. And they're like, wow, you're 280 pounds. I'm like, it's pretty heavy for a 170-pound guy, right? And they seem to understand at that point. They're going, okay, this is a different game.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about the leg locks and the ankle locks and stuff like that. I'm talking when you're going with somebody and all of a sudden, wow, I thought you only moved at 20 miles an hour. No, Nobody moves at 20 miles an hour once you're in the advanced class.
No,
Then you're
no,
going
it's full speed ahead.
downhill passing, aggressive movements towards submissions and the whole bit. Everything. Your game level's up, and even though you're tailing behind, you're going to catch up. You're going to catch up. It's just
So, man,
it's how it goes.
You said, here's something that's valuable. You might not catch up in a very obvious way, because the people you're surrounded with, especially in our academy, like, we're not Atos, we don't have like 1,000 students, so the advanced students for the most part are training with the same like 20 guys, right? What happens to that entire group? For the most part, we all increase our ability at the same time, right? So
100%.
you might be thinking like, man, I thought I was getting better, but I can't get this guy. I thought I was getting better, but Russ keeps passing my guard. So what's really happening is you are getting better, but so is Russ. So is the Maniac. Like, all these guys are getting better at the same time. So is Nick the Wig.
Not just his hair.
Dave, what's up, dude? One of my buddies from high school. One of the strongest bastards alive. He was ripped to the bone when we were like 11 years old. Bastard.
He's one of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, so the point is, man, like, you got to understand that, like, the rising tide lifts all boats. So although you might be getting taller, so to speak, and you still can't see over everybody's shoulders, it's because they're getting taller at the same time. Now, that gets me into this next point. You have to, we talked about the other day a little bit, you have to divide your time between the different levels, different skill levels, who you're training with. So if you only train with your peer group and people above you, you're going to be tougher. And, like, your skill will improve. But, man, not as fast as it could if you're training with some people below you. And the unfortunate truth is your ego and your mental health is going to suffer for it. Like, I think in jiu-jitsu, you have to find ways to afford yourself those small victories. So it's important, like, yeah, you get your rounds in with your peer group. Yeah, you get your ass kicked by Coach Pete. Make sure you grab that new blue belt and make sure, like, you get your techniques in too,
Yeah, we talked about it with the kids too. You get new ones in. Look, you're not going to train with some of the, Ryan. God forbid they train with a Ryan Terry. You're not going to have the success you have. And you grow from that mentally. And just putting that back to the adult program is, you roll with you or Brandon or Professor Battle, and you get done with the roll, and you're going, God, I just got my ass kicked. I'm like, look who you just rolled with.
Yeah.
You're a blue purple belt. All right. Whatever it is. I go, you just got your ass kicked by the 1% of the academy.
Yeah.
Go find a blue belt. Go find a new purple belt. Go train with them. That's where you're going to dial in. Like we said, you dial in those techniques. You're not going to get those techniques most of the times because you're chasing the higher belt when you're on the mat. You have to have it where the whole idea of bullet time, like from with Neo, once you slow it down, you're able to counter all these things coming at you. And you're not going to get that when you're chasing a Ferrari like you or a Pinto like Brandon. It's different. You have to find your holes in training where you get to slow it down so you can improve your techniques. Because like you said, when you're training with the higher level guys, the hierarchy, the higher ups of the academy, belt wise and technique wise, you're not going to have a success rate. It's just not going to be there. You're going to get countered. You're going to get, you're going to get stuck on your back. You're going to get caught in these different positions. You're, just like Russ. You hear, when you're training with Russ because of the vocals that comes from his grunts and grinds, right? You're going to get that, but you're not going to have the success you have with the higher level guys. Yeah. You have to be able to train with the lower level guys. And it's not going to a white belt, just got his first stripe. Hey, let's go train. And you just crush them. That's not what I'm saying. You stick to the colored belts. You train with the colored belts. You learn to dial in those little intricate movements that make up a submission or a movement or a pass or a sweep or whatever with those guys. That's how you get better,
Yeah. So to, I guess, bring it all the way around is, and man, not to sound corny or cliche, but for me personally, like, I've really dedicated myself and I've tried to hold myself accountable from day one that I'm always going to have that white belt mentality, right? I'm always going to acknowledge and hold on to the fact that I don't have all the answers, that I'm not like the end all be all, and that there is no final destination. That's something that, like, especially white belts and blue belts have to know. You don't just arrive one day and, like, you got to figure, like, you won't be like Neo stopping the bullets ever. Even with a white belt, it's never going to be that easy. You're always going to have to fight. Obviously it'll get easier the sharper your technique gets, but think about what that does for you as a person. Like, your ability to admit that you don't have all the answers, your willingness to look stupid, your willingness to, like, feel incompetent, even when you're supposed to be the most competent person in the academy. Like, my name is on the door, right? And, like, I never want to get to a point where I'm not always going to be trying to make myself feel stupid, even if that means, like, when I go home I have to sit in my sauna and contemplate, like, jumping out a window. Like, that's a big part of it. Like those ups and downs, like, you have to embrace that stuff. So if you're listening to this, you probably train Jiu Jitsu. You're gonna feel like you suck probably today and probably tomorrow, and then Saturday you might feel pretty good. Monday you're gonna feel like you suck again. But that's the idea, right? And you talked about ebbs and flows. The key is this: when you're going up, man, enjoy it. Like, make the best of it. When you're dipping down, just understand that there's going to be an up on the other side of that valley. But that chart shouldn't do this. It shouldn't just go laterally. The chart, even though it dips, it's got to keep going up and up and up. I think that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you using the stock market as I have my trader app going on this other window over here, is the whole idea is for every up you're going to have a down, but the downs are never as bad as they could be. Meaning, you're going to go up, you're going to come down a little bit, you're going to come up, but you, from where you started, you're always way ahead of the game. And as long as you can accept those little downs and realize, I'm going to get back up there as long as I'm doing the right things, that's where I think the mental aspect of what we do comes into play. If again, if you're a blue belt and you're getting submitted by whoever, that's fine. Just deal with it, embrace it. Don't put too much pressure on you. By getting your blue belt, you didn't just become.
Don't be too nice.
Marcelo
Don't be
Garcia,
too nice, though, dude. Because the truth is, there is a responsibility. There is the assumption that you can protect yourself against white belts. Do you have to be Hercules as a blue belt? Friggin' of course not. That's insane. But the good thing about jiu-jitsu is you get immediate feedback, right? So if you train with a white belt and you get submitted, it might be an anomaly. That might be a freak white belt. If you train with another white belt and you get submitted, there's a trend. And when you see a trend, you need to take massive action. That's telling me that either, like, you're not training hard enough, or you're out of shape, or your mental game is weak and you're giving things up when you shouldn't. So don't be blind to what's happening on the mat. Just don't be so emotionally invested in it that it deters you from training, right? Because it is a mental game. And if you do have the mental toughness to persevere through those days where you feel like you suck, there's nothing stopping you from getting your black belt. And,
exactly.
I think that's pretty much it. All right, lost Coach Pete. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you guys have any questions you want us to address, you let me know, and we'll get on it. All right? Take it easy, guys.